A diver clings to the steel bars of a cage as an 18-foot great white shark charges with relentless force, bending the metal and breaking through. The water erupts in chaos. A flash of serrated teeth, a cloud of blood, and a horrifying tug into the deep. These are the chilling moments of 6 shark attacks where nature's apex predator left its mark in unforgettable ways. Stay tuned for the stories that will make you think twice before stepping into the ocean. The Ocean Explorer rocked gently on the calm waters surrounding Guadalupe Island, Mexico, as a group of thrill-seekers gathered on its deck. They had traveled from around the world to experience the adrenaline rush of cage diving with great white sharks, one of the most feared predators in the ocean. The allure of being face-to-face with these apex hunters, separated by the supposed safety of steel bars, had made this trip a must for adventure enthusiasts. Among the group was John Adams, a 34-year-old marine life enthusiast from San Diego. He had long been fascinated by sharks, watching countless documentaries and reading every book he could find about them. This was to be the highlight of his year, a chance to see a great white in its natural habitat, up close and personal. The day had begun like any other for the Ocean Explorer, with the crew briefing the divers about safety protocols, the mechanics of the cage, and what to expect during their descent into the deep. It was December 27, 2024, and by mid-morning the boat had reached its prime diving spot, a stretch of water known for its population of great whites. The crew prepared the cage, a large steel structure designed to keep the divers safe from the sharks. They began chumming the water with a mix of fish parts and blood, a common practice to attract the predators. The smell quickly spread, creating a trail that lured the sharks toward the boat. At 11 a.m., the first sighting occurred. A massive great white shark emerged from the depths, its dorsal fin slicing through the water like a blade. The crew estimated it to be at least 18 feet long, its sheer size enough to send chills down anyone's spine. The divers, including John, were thrilled, eagerly adjusting their scuba gear and cameras as the cage was lowered into the water. John and 3 other divers climbed into the cage, the bars enclosing them like a fortress as they descended beneath the surface. For the first few minutes, everything went as planned. The great white circled the cage slowly, its movements calculated and almost elegant. John marveled at its size and power, captivated by the sight of the creature gliding effortlessly through the water. But the shark's behavior soon changed. It began circling faster, its movements more erratic, and its eyes fixed on the cage. The divers noticed the shift, their initial excitement giving way to unease. The crew on the boat tried to distract the shark, using bait lines to steer it away. But the predator wasn't deterred. It was fixated on the cage and the people inside. Without warning, the shark charged. Its head slammed into the cage with a force that made the steel structure shudder violently. The impact sent shockwaves through the water, jostling the divers inside. John gripped the bars tightly, his heart racing as the shark backed off briefly before ramming the cage again. The second strike was even more powerful. One of the steel bars buckled under the pressure, bending outward and creating a gap wide enough for the shark to exploit. What happened next was sheer chaos. The shark lunged forward, its massive head pushing through the opening. Its jaws snapped open, revealing rows of serrated teeth that gleamed even in the dim underwater light. John was closest to the opening, and the predator seized him with terrifying speed. Its teeth clamped onto his arm, and with a powerful tug, it yanked him out of the cage. The water exploded into a frenzy of bubbles, blood, and movement. The other divers watched in horror, paralyzed by fear as the predator dragged John into the open water. Above, the crew saw the commotion and immediately began pulling the cage to the surface, shouting for the divers to climb out. But for John, it was too late. The shark delivered a series of brutal bites, tearing into his torso and legs with devastating force. His struggles weakened as blood poured into the water, creating a crimson cloud that only fueled the predator's frenzy. The crew threw ropes and life rings into the water, shouting and banging on the side of the boat to try to distract the shark. One crew member even jumped in with a pole to try to push the shark away. But the predator was relentless. John's body went limp as the shark pulled him deeper, disappearing into the blue void. The surface of the water, once calm and inviting, was now stained with the horrifying aftermath of the attack. The remaining divers, shaken and in shock, were quickly hauled back onto the boat. Some were crying, others staring blankly, unable to process what they had just witnessed. The ocean explorer returned to shore with its passengers in stunned silence. News of the attack spread rapidly, sparking outrage and horror worldwide. Marine experts weighed in, criticizing the company for failing to maintain the integrity of the cage and for their aggressive chumming practices, which may have provoked the shark's behavior. The investigation revealed troubling details about the company's operations. The cage, touted as state-of-the-art, had not been inspected in over a year, and the steel bars showed signs of corrosion. The amount of chum used was also excessive, creating an environment that increased the likelihood of an aggressive encounter. Authorities shut down the company's operations indefinitely, and lawsuits from John's family and other passengers followed. The attack left a deep scar on the shark diving community. It was a sobering reminder of the risks involved in these interactions and the consequences of negligence. While cage diving was meant to offer a safe way to witness the majesty of great whites, the incident highlighted the dangers of underestimating the raw power and unpredictability of these animals. John Adams, a man who had lived for adventure and the thrill of exploring the ocean, became a tragic symbol of what can go wrong when humans push too close to nature's boundaries. For those who witnessed the attack, the image of the great white shark bursting through the cage and dragging John into the depths would haunt them forever. A stark reminder that in the wild, even the strongest steel can break, and the sea remains untamed. The sun rose over Waikiki Beach on May 9, 2023, casting its warm glow across the turquoise waters of the Pacific. It was a picture-perfect day, the kind Hawaii was famous for, with tourists flocking to the beaches and embarking on various ocean adventures. Among them was Claire Hensley, a 30-year-old nurse from San Diego who had come to Hawaii with a group of friends for a much-needed vacation. For Claire, the trip was more than just a getaway. It was a chance to reconnect with nature and indulge her passion for snorkeling, an activity she had loved since her teens. That morning, Claire and her friends boarded a small tour boat, their spirits high as they headed to a popular reef about 2 miles offshore. The area, known for its vibrant marine life and crystal-clear waters, was a favorite spot for snorkeling tours. The guide, an experienced local, gave a safety briefing, emphasizing the importance of staying close to the group and remaining within the designated snorkeling zone. Claire, a strong swimmer and confident in her abilities, listened attentively, but felt no apprehension. After all, she had snorkeled in deeper waters before. By 10 a.m., the boat reached its destination. The reef below teemed with life. Schools of fish darting through coral, sea turtles gliding gracefully, and the occasional stingray nestled in the sand. Claire was among the first to slip into the water, eager to explore. With her mask secured and fins propelling her forward, she felt the familiar thrill of entering a world so different from the one above. The group moved together at first, their laughter and shouts of excitement audible even through their snorkels. Claire, however, was soon drawn to a particularly colorful section of coral a short distance away. The guide had warned against wandering too far, but the lure of discovering something new was too strong. Claire paddled toward the reef, her focus entirely on the marine life below. Unbeknownst to Claire, the waters beyond the reef were home to a large great white shark, an apex predator that had been spotted in the area several times over the past month. Unlike the smaller reef sharks that occasionally swam near the snorkeling zones, this individual was unusually aggressive, displaying behavior that had concerned local marine biologists. It had been following schools of fish near the reef, its movements slow and deliberate as it scanned for prey. As Claire swam farther from the group, the predator closed in. It was massive, nearly 16 feet long, its dark silhouette a stark contrast against the bright blue of the ocean. The first sign of danger came in the form of a shadow passing beneath her. At first, Claire didn't notice. Her attention was still on the reef, but when she turned her head, her breath caught as she saw the shark's dorsal fin cutting through the water. The attack happened in an instant. The shark lunged upward with incredible speed, its jaws clamping onto Claire's torso. The force of the bite knocked the snorkel from her mouth and the mask from her face as she screamed, the sound muffled by the water. The predator's serrated teeth tore through her flesh, dragging her downward with horrifying power. Her body thrashed as she struggled to free herself, her movements frantic but futile against the strength of the shark. From the boat, Claire's friends heard her muffled screams and turned to see the chaos unfolding. One of them, Mark, a longtime friend, shouted for help as he grabbed a nearby life preserver and threw it into the water. The guide and crew scrambled to act, grabbing poles and other tools to try to scare the shark away. Meanwhile, other snorkelers swam frantically back to the boat, their faces pale with terror. Claire's struggle was brief but harrowing. The shark shook her violently, its powerful body creating a vortex of bubbles and blood. Her friends could only watch helplessly as she was pulled deeper into the water, the bright red of her blood spreading like ink in the ocean. In moments, both Claire and the shark disappeared beneath the waves, leaving only her fins and a trail of bubbles behind. The crew initiated an emergency response, calling for rescue teams and deploying divers to search for Claire. The mood on the boat was one of shock and despair, her friends clinging to each other and staring at the water in disbelief. Divers arrived within minutes, scanning the reef and surrounding waters, but there was no trace of Claire. The predator had vanished, taking its victim with it into the vastness of the ocean. By the end of the day, authorities confirmed what everyone aboard the boat had feared. Claire was presumed dead. Her body was never recovered, though fragments of her gear were found later that week, washed up on a nearby beach. Marine experts analyzed the incident, identifying the shark as a known aggressive individual that had been sighted multiple times near the reef. The attack, they explained, was likely provoked by the shark mistaking Claire's movements for prey, exacerbated by its natural hunting instincts. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the local community and the broader world of marine tourism. Waikiki, known for its idyllic beaches and safe snorkeling spots, had suddenly become the site of a nightmare. Local officials acted swiftly, imposing stricter regulations on snorkeling tours, including tighter restrictions on where tourists could swim and increased monitoring of known shark activity. Signs warning of potential dangers were placed near popular snorkeling and diving locations. For Claire's family and friends, the loss was immeasurable. She was remembered as a kind and adventurous spirit, someone who found joy in exploring the natural world. The group who had shared the boat with her struggled to process the trauma of witnessing the attack, many seeking counseling to cope with the aftermath. Marine biologists used the incident to educate the public about the importance of respecting the ocean's unpredictable nature. While shark attacks remain rare, they emphasized the need for caution when entering waters inhabited by predators, particularly in areas where behaviorally unusual individuals had been spotted. The early morning sun cast long shadows over the calm waters off Cape Cod, Massachusetts, as beachgoers began their routines on August 3, 2022. Among them was Sarah Langston, a 31-year-old paddleboarder from Boston, who had driven down for a peaceful morning on the water. Known among her friends as an experienced and cautious adventurer, Sarah relished the solitude of early mornings, when the ocean seemed to stretch endlessly, untouched and serene. By 9:30 a.m., Sarah had launched her paddleboard into the glassy waters. The gentle sound of her paddle slicing through the sea provided a rhythm to her thoughts as she drifted farther from shore. The horizon was clear, and the beach behind her was a speck in the distance. The ocean, seemingly endless and inviting, gave no warning of the danger lurking just below. Cape Cod has seen an increase in great white shark activity in recent years. Drawn by the booming seal population, these apex predators had begun to make their presence known in the area, prompting warnings for swimmers and paddleboarders alike. Despite the awareness campaigns, the clear waters often lulled visitors into a false sense of security, a mistake Sarah would soon pay for. As Sarah paddled farther from shore, she paused to take in the stillness. Leaning forward slightly, she adjusted her position on the board and let her paddle rest. Beneath her, the water appeared calm and clear, revealing nothing of the dark shape gliding silently below. The shark, a mature great white estimated to be nearly 14 feet long, had been patrolling the area, scanning for prey. The attack happened in an instant. With a sudden burst of speed, the shark surged upward, its immense body slamming into the underside of the paddleboard. The impact sent Sarah flying into the water as the board flipped violently. Disoriented, she resurfaced, gasping for air and grabbing onto the overturned paddleboard for support. Her mind raced to process what had happened. Then she saw it. A dorsal fin, cutting through the water like a knife, circled her with terrifying precision. Her heart pounded as she clung to the paddleboard, the realization of her situation sinking in. The great white shark, now just feet away, turned sharply and launched its attack. With its powerful jaws, it clamped onto Sarah's leg, the serrated teeth tearing through muscle and bone with ease. Sarah screamed, the sound piercing the air and carrying over the waves. She kicked desperately with her free leg, fighting to escape the predator's grip. Blood clouded the water, a bright crimson spreading outward like ink on a canvas. Despite her frantic struggle, the shark's strength was overwhelming. It pulled her under, its massive tail churning the water as it dragged her into the depths. From the shore, a few early beachgoers saw the commotion and alerted nearby surfers. A group of 3 surfers paddled toward Sarah, their fear eclipsed by the urgency to help. One of them, a man in his mid-30s, reached her first. He extended his arm, shouting for her to grab hold. But the shark wasn't finished. It surged forward, delivering another devastating bite to her torso. The water erupted in chaos. Sarah's movement slowed as the shark's relentless attack took its toll. Her grip on the paddleboard loosened and she slipped beneath the surface. The surfers, horrified, could do nothing but watch as the predator disappeared with its prey. The once calm waters were now stained red, the scene etched into their minds forever. Rescue teams arrived minutes later, launching a coordinated effort to locate Sarah. Boats, jet skis, and even a helicopter scoured the area, their crews scanning the water for any sign of her. Hours passed before her body was recovered, floating several hundred yards from where the attack had occurred. The injuries were catastrophic, consistent with a high-impact great white shark attack, and it was clear she had succumbed to blood loss and shock long before rescue could arrive. The attack sent shockwaves through the Cape Cod community. Marine experts explained that great white sharks were drawn to areas with high seal activity and that the predator may have mistaken Sarah for prey. While shark attacks on humans remained rare, the combination of an active predator and a lone paddleboarder had created the perfect storm for tragedy. Local authorities responded swiftly, implementing stricter safety measures for beachgoers. Signs warning of shark activity were installed at key locations, and lifeguards increased patrols to monitor for potential threats. Paddleboarders and swimmers were urged to stay closer to shore and avoid early morning outings when sharks were most active. For Sarah's friends and family, the loss was devastating. A memorial was held on the beach where they shared stories of her adventurous spirit, her love for the ocean, and her kindness to everyone she met. Her death served as a sobering reminder of the unpredictable power of nature and the risks inherent in venturing into the wild. The summer of 2022 left an indelible mark on the Cape Cod community. For those who witnessed the attack, the image of the shark bursting from the depths and dragging Sarah into the water was a chilling reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and the raw forces of the ocean. Her story became a haunting tale of how even the most peaceful waters can hold unimaginable danger. The allure of the Bahamas' crystal-clear waters and vibrant marine life draws adventurers from around the globe, particularly those eager to explore its famous underwater caves. Brimming with colorful corals and diverse sea creatures, it becomes a haven for experienced divers seeking the thrill of discovery. On the afternoon of February 14, 2021, a group of 5 scuba divers prepared for such an adventure, their excitement palpable as they geared up near a remote dive site off Andros Island. Among them was Greg Mitchell, a 36-year-old diving enthusiast from Florida. Greg had years of experience under his belt and a passion for exploring the ocean's hidden corners. The dive that day was meant to be the highlight of his trip, a chance to navigate the intricate cave systems known for their beauty and occasional danger. The group, led by an experienced dive master, had thoroughly planned their excursion, with clear protocols and safety measures in place. By 2 p.m., the group had descended roughly 80 feet beneath the surface. The entrance to the cave system loomed ahead, a dark maw fringed with coral and teeming with small fish. The divers moved cautiously, their lights cutting through the shadows as they marveled at the delicate formations around them. Greg, as always, was slightly ahead of the group, his curiosity drawing him closer to the cave's mysterious entrance. The water around them was calm, but the tranquility was deceptive. Unknown to the group, a great white shark had been patrolling the area. At an estimated 16 feet long, this predator was a rare but not unheard of visitor to Bahamian waters. Drawn by the movements of fish and the vibrations caused by the divers, it had been circling the cave entrance, hidden by the shadows of the reef. As Greg floated near the opening, adjusting his position to peer inside, the shark struck. It happened so quickly that no one had time to react. With terrifying speed, the predator lunged from the darkness, its powerful jaws clamping onto Greg's torso. The force of the attack sent a shockwave through the water, and Greg's muffled scream reverberated through his regulator. The shark's initial strike was devastating, its serrated teeth tearing into Greg's body as it shook him violently. Blood clouded the water, turning the once pristine surroundings into a horrifying scene. The other divers froze in shock, their lights illuminating the chaos as Greg thrashed against the shark's grip. The predator's strength was overwhelming, and despite Greg's desperate struggle, he was dragged deeper into the cave. The group's dive masters signaled frantically for the remaining divers to ascend, realizing that staying in the area was far too dangerous. The cave, already a challenging environment, had become a death trap with the presence of the predator. As they began their ascent, the shark delivered another vicious bite, its powerful jaws sealing Greg's fate. His movements slowed, and within moments, both he and the shark disappeared into the cave's depths. The remaining divers reached the surface in a state of panic, their faces pale and their breaths labored as they climbed aboard the dive boat. They recounted the attack to the stunned crew, who immediately radioed for help. Rescue efforts were launched within the hour, with additional dive teams and marine experts joining the search. However, the cave's complex network of tunnels and the aggressive presence of the shark made recovery efforts nearly impossible. By nightfall, the search was called off, and Greg was officially declared missing, presumed dead. His body was never recovered, and the incident sent shockwaves through the local diving community. Experts who reviewed the attack noted the unusual nature of a great white shark targeting divers in such an aggressive manner. While great whites are known for their power and predatory instincts, attacks on humans in the Bahamas are extremely rare, making this event all the more chilling. Marine biologists speculated that the shark's behavior may have been triggered by territorial instincts or mistaken identity, as the diver's movements and lights could have been perceived as prey. The confined space of the cave added another layer of complexity, amplifying the predator's natural aggression. The aftermath of the attack led to immediate action from local authorities. Diving in the area was temporarily banned, and stricter safety protocols were introduced for future expeditions. Tour operators were required to implement more rigorous training for guides and ensure divers maintained safer distances from potentially dangerous areas. For Greg's family and friends, the loss was a devastating blow. He was remembered as a fearless adventurer who lived for the thrill of exploration. Tributes poured in from fellow divers who had shared countless underwater journeys with him, all expressing their shock and sorrow at the tragic turn of events. The diving community, while familiar with the risks of the sport, grappled with the horror of an attack that seemed to defy the norms of human-shark interactions. The incident also reignited debates about the ethics of cave diving and the responsibilities of tour operators to minimize risks in unpredictable environments. Conservationists emphasized the need to respect the ocean's wild inhabitants while acknowledging that such encounters highlight the raw and untamed power of nature. For those who were there that day, the memory of Greg's final moments remained etched in their minds. The sight of the great white shark emerging from the shadows and dragging him into the depths was a haunting reminder of the delicate balance between human curiosity and the ocean's primal forces. Though he was an experienced diver, Greg had ventured into a realm where the rules of the surface no longer applied, and the predator's dominance was absolute. The waters off Andros Island, so often associated with beauty and wonder, had become the setting for a nightmare, a chilling tale that would echo through the diving community for years to come. It was the middle of summer, July 12, 2022, when the sky was clear and the water along the Jersey shore seemed calm. The Callahan family decided it was the perfect day for a boating trip. They had rented a small motorboat and planned to spend the day enjoying the sea. The family of four, Thomas, a 49-year-old financial consultant, his wife Miranda, a 45-year-old high school teacher, their 22-year-old son Ben, and their youngest daughter Lily, who was 15, had driven down early that morning from their home in Edison, New Jersey. The Jersey Shore is known for its bustling beaches and vibrant boardwalks, but just a few miles offshore, the open water holds a different kind of mystery. Marine life thrives here, including dolphins, sea turtles, and various species of fish. Sharks are not uncommon in these waters, particularly in the summer when schools of fish draw them closer to shore. The great white shark, a powerful predator, occasionally roams this region, though attacks on humans are rare. The Callahans, like most visitors, knew about these creatures but assumed they'd never encounter one. The family set off from a marina in Point Pleasant Beach at around 10 a.m. They spent the first couple of hours cruising along the coast, stopping occasionally to take in the view and let Lily dip her feet in the water. Ben, who was athletic and always looking for ways to stay active, suggested they anchor the boat so he could swim. By then it was close to noon and the sun was high, making the water look inviting. Thomas agreed, steering the boat to a spot about 2 miles from the shore, where the water was a deep blue. Ben, wearing swim trunks and a life vest, jumped into the water with an easy splash. He was a strong swimmer and loved the feeling of freedom the open ocean gave him. Lily and Miranda stayed on the boat, chatting and taking pictures. Thomas stood at the edge, keeping a watchful eye on his son. Ben had removed the life vest once he was in the water, saying it was easier to move without it. He swam a short distance from the boat, his strokes strong and rhythmic. The minutes passed uneventfully until Thomas noticed something in the water, a dark shadow moving with purpose. It was far off at first, almost easy to miss, but it quickly became clearer. A dorsal fin broke the surface, gliding silently toward Ben. Thomas's heart raced as he shouted to his son, though his voice was carried away by the wind and waves. Ben, unaware of the danger, kept swimming, his back turned to the approaching predator. The shark circled him once, its powerful body cutting through the water with ease. It was a great white, an apex predator that could weigh over 1,000 pounds. Scientists often describe these sharks as curious hunters, using their senses to investigate potential prey. For the shark, Ben's movements in the water likely mimicked those of a struggling fish or seal. Suddenly the shark struck. It came from beneath, its jaws clamping down on Ben's right thigh with terrifying force. Ben's scream was a raw sound of pain and fear that pierced the air, reaching his father's ears. Thomas froze for a second, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Blood spread in the water, a stark contrast against the blue as the shark pulled Ben under. Ben fought back, kicking and thrashing with all his strength. His instincts took over as he clawed at the water, desperate to break free. The shark let go momentarily, circling him again as if deciding its next move. Ben's head broke the surface, and he gasped for air, shouting for help. Thomas was already diving into the water, adrenaline propelling him forward. Miranda and Lily screamed from the boat, helpless as they watched the scene unfold. Thomas swam toward his son with powerful strokes, reaching him just as the shark struck again, this time grabbing hold of Ben's lower leg. The force of the attack dragged Ben underwater once more. Thomas grabbed his son's arm, pulling with all his might, but the shark's strength was overwhelming. Ben surfaced briefly, his face pale and etched with pain. His eyes met his father's, and at that moment, there was a silent plea. Thomas didn't give up. He tried to kick at the shark, to distract it, but his efforts were futile. The animal was relentless, its instincts driving it to finish what it had started. Back on the boat, Miranda frantically called 911, her voice trembling as she described the attack. Lily clung to her mother, tears streaming down her face. Every second felt like an eternity as they watched Thomas and Ben struggle in the water. The shark dove deep, taking Ben with it. Thomas was left grasping at empty water, his son slipping out of his reach. He dived again and again, searching desperately, but Ben was gone. Exhausted and defeated, he swam back to the boat, his movements heavy with grief. Miranda helped him climb aboard, her hands shaking. Lily sat curled in a corner, unable to stop crying. Within minutes, a Coast Guard boat arrived, followed by a rescue helicopter. Divers entered the water searching for Ben, but it was too late. His body was recovered shortly after, bearing the unmistakable marks of a shark attack. Emergency responders confirmed what the family already knew. Ben was gone. The beach towns along the Jersey shore were shaken by the news. Officials temporarily closed nearby beaches and increased shark monitoring, deploying drones and patrols to scan the waters. Experts explained that shark attacks were rare, emphasizing that these animals would not usually seek out humans as prey. Still, the incident served as a stark reminder of the ocean's unpredictability and the power of its inhabitants. The Callahan family's lives were forever changed that day. They left the marina in silence, their boat docked where the trip had begun just hours earlier. The sun still shone and the waves still rolled gently against the shore. But for them, the world had lost its light. The morning of January 17, 2023, started like any other summer day in Queensland, Australia. The waves rolled gently onto Palm Cove Beach, a popular spot north of Cairns. The water was warm, inviting swimmers, kayakers, and paddleboarders to enjoy the calm surf. Tourists and locals gathered on the sand, some laying out towels and others walking along the shoreline. For Emily Carter, a 29-year-old teacher and an experienced swimmer, the day felt perfect for an early swim. Emily had always been drawn to the ocean. Growing up in a small town outside Brisbane, she spent weekends swimming and surfing with her friends. She moved to Cairns 2 years ago for a teaching job and quickly fell in love with the beaches nearby. She often told her colleagues how swimming helped her clear her mind, especially on busy weeks. That Tuesday morning, she planned to take a quick dip before heading back to prepare for the start of the new school term. Emily arrived at Palm Cove just after sunrise, parking her car near the main beach access. She carried a small bag with her towel, water bottle, and a pair of goggles. As she reached the sand, she waved at a few familiar faces, other regular swimmers who frequented the area. By 7:30 a.m., she had stretched, set her bag down on the sand, and waded into the water. The beach was busy but not overcrowded. Families gathered near the shallows, and a few swimmers paddled farther out. Emily loved to swim beyond the designated safe zones, while lifeguards patrolled the area and set up flags for safety. She found it more peaceful where the water was deeper and the crowds thinned out. By 8 a.m., she was around 200 meters from the shore, the soft rise and fall of the waves her only companion. Queensland's waters are home to diverse marine life. You might see turtles, dolphins, or schools of fish darting around, but the region is also known for its sharks. Australia records some of the highest numbers of shark encounters in the world, with great whites, tiger sharks, and bull sharks being the most common species involved in attacks. The great white, in particular, is a dominant predator in these waters, often swimming close to shore during the summer months when baitfish are abundant. Unbeknownst to Emily, a great white shark was nearby that morning, likely drawn closer to the beach by the activity of smaller fish. At roughly 4 meters long, it moved with purpose, a silent shadow beneath the waves. Great whites rely on their acute senses to hunt, using their ability to detect movement and vibrations in the water to zero in on prey. Emily swam steadily, unaware of the shark's presence. Her arms cut through the water as she kept her breathing calm and even. Then, it happened. Without warning, she felt a sudden force slam into her side. The impact sent her spinning, and before she could react, she was pulled underwater. The shark had struck with its powerful jaws, clamping down on her left arm. Emily's mind raced as the pain hit her. She kicked wildly, trying to break free. The shark released her for a moment, circling back. She pushed herself to the surface, gasping for air and screaming, hoping someone on shore would see her. Blood seeped into the water, clouding the area around her. A couple on the beach spotted the commotion and began shouting, alerting others nearby. One man grabbed a surfboard and paddled out toward her, but he was still far away. The shark returned quickly, its instincts driving it to finish the attack. Emily felt its jaws close around her leg this time, dragging her under again. She struggled with everything she had, punching and kicking at the animal, but her strength was no match for its power. Each second felt like an eternity as she fought to stay alive. The man on the surfboard reached the area where she had gone under. He scanned the water, desperate to spot her. A lifeguard on a jet ski arrived moments later, searching alongside him. By then, the water was still, save for a faint red tint spreading across the surface. The shark was gone, and Emily was nowhere to be seen. On the shore, bystanders stood frozen, some crying, others frantically calling for more help. The lifeguard radioed for emergency services, and soon boats and a helicopter were dispatched to the scene. Divers entered the water to search, but their efforts were hampered by poor visibility and the vastness of the ocean. By late morning, Emily's body was recovered, confirming the worst fears of those who had watched the tragedy unfold. The bite marks left no doubt that a great white shark had been responsible. Her injuries were severe, and it was clear she had little chance of survival from the moment of the attack. The news of the incident spread quickly, leaving the community in shock. Palm Cove Beach was immediately closed, with signs warning people to stay out of the water. Officials deployed drones and patrol boats to monitor the area for further shark activity, but the predator was long gone. Marine experts explained that shark attacks, while rare, were a natural risk in these waters. They emphasized the importance of safety measures, such as staying within flagged areas and avoiding swimming at dawn or dusk when sharks were more active. Emily's death deeply affected those who knew her. Her colleagues and students remembered her as a kind and dedicated teacher, who always encouraged others to follow their passions. For the swimmers and surfers of Palm Cove, the tragedy was a stark reminder of the ocean's power and unpredictability. Many questioned whether more could be done to prevent such incidents, though they knew the risks could never be fully eliminated. The beach remained closed for several days, reopening only after authorities deemed it safe. Even then, the shadow of what had happened lingered in the minds of those who returned to the water, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life in the face of nature's forces.